Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 59. Bit of an interesting one today, and I'll get into in a minute why that is. But we'll introduce the guys that are on today first. Maria and Gordon, would you like to say hello?
Hello. Hi.
That was the cutest little hellos I have ever heard. Hello, hi. Before we get on into another excellent episode of the R2Kast, I would just like to thank the sponsor for the show today, The Scottish Farmer, a weekly magazine highlighting everything you need to know regarding the Scottish agricultural industry, whether it's breaking news, events happening in the sector, market reports, classified ads, or just wholesome stories happening in the industry. The Scottish Farmer's got it for you. So, I always felt like I was going to do like a James May and Grand Tour there. Situation report viewers, this is, for those that follow R2K on Facebooks and Instagrams, not the first time we have recorded with the three of us. And there's multiple reasons for that. First off was, well, this is one of the reasons, but Gordon basically decided that they weren't good enough with computers and they would quite like the idea of filming it in person. And funnily enough about the computer thing, they've just proven that as we tried to set this up this evening. And but the being in person thing was a great idea. I really enjoyed it. They were over for Aaron's show, which was the 3rd of August. August was a really good day. And the night before, once everything was set up, we came over and I thought it would be a great idea to introduce these lovely people to Aaron Gold. And we tried some Aaron Gold and we tried some more. And then we tried some whiskey and we filmed an entertaining episode, a very good episode, actually. It's very good. It is the longest episode I've ever recorded. It is the only episode over 100 minutes, and it was 15 minutes over 100 minutes.
Do you know what, Wallace? I don't remember most of it, and I was really scared.
Yeah, so it's about 3 minutes off of 2 hours. And I started to edit it, thinking this will be easy enough. It was like 2 screens facing each other. And it took me about 3.5 hours, and that had got me to 7 minutes. So I bailed out, and I was like, this is not happening. I can't do this. So we've decided to film it again on the old Zooms. So, yeah, and hopefully it will be maybe an episode that we actually cover everything, because we did forget a few things last time. I was heavily pushing trying to get a sponsorship from Aaron Whiskey, and I focused more on that than the guests. So yeah, it was good fun.
It was a good night.
It was a good night. I never actually saw it. Well, I saw you guys the next day. I was obviously quite busy, as were you. Yeah. And but I never came over and spoke to you. But Maria, I walked past you at one point with my mate. I walked past you, you were leaning against the side of the trailer, and it looked like you had enjoyed your night.
We actually had donuts for breakfast, and it was great.
Did you?
Yeah.
Weighing on Aaron. I don't know why that, because donuts aren't really an Aaron thing, but yeah, enough about our failed escapades at film before. I'm sure this one will be very much up to standard, as was the last one if it wasn't for the editing side. But could you tell us about yourself, guys? Oh, actually, before we do this, one more thing before they tell us. These are the biggest fans of the R2Kast. They have the episode watched almost within the however long that duration of the podcast is, after 7 o'clock on the Friday evening. Super fans, so it must be a big day for them to meet their hero. No, could you tell us?
I'm going to go as far as hero, but
I'll edit that wee bit out, because you clearly would, Gordon. Could you tell us a bit about yourselves, guys, from a background perspective? Are you from farming? Where are you from? That sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm 29 and I'm from Ayrshire. Originally, I'm from a big family, so I'm not from farming, but I'm from a big family. And we moved down to Muirkirk when I was 3 years old. So kind of brought up in the country, but not in farming. The only kind of relationship I had with farming was really, we were quite lucky that we got a couple of horses when we were younger and kept them on the neighbouring sheep farm. So I got to kind of see him working with his sheep. And then a tradition that me and my dad still do is we go to Lanark Market every year and buy a turkey. But that's the only kind of thing I had involved in farming. Other than that, I just loved working with animals and being outside, but not from farming.
Yeah. Yourself, Gordon?
So yeah, I'm not from farming either. I'm from Ayrshire originally. Always stayed in Ayrshire. I don't really know where my interest in farming actually came from, which sounds a bit ridiculous. We always kind of kept sort of half a dozen hens in the garden just for eggs for the house ourselves. When I was first year or second year, I think it was, I started working at a dairy farm at the weekends, just milkings in the afternoon. And I don't know, it kind of just snowballed from there. I was always sort of had an interest in it from then on. So basically, most of my kind of adult life, first year's not quite adult, but again, like sort of, yeah, you always had an interest in agriculture anyway.
It's quite hard when you haven't always, like I was just born on a farm, it was there. That was when it was, but when you haven't got that thing that happened, it's quite hard to pinpoint. But it's
because it's like it's hard looking at it from an outside perspective. Obviously, you've never had that because you've been in it. But being in an outside perspective, I didn't ever speak to anybody about milking, which sounds like now sounds ridiculous. But when I was even at school, I never told my friends that I was milking cows at weekends. They kind of knew, but it was never spoke about. And I didn't tell people who were in my class that were from farming. And I know that sounds so ridiculous, but I never spoke to anybody about farming. But I was like,
probably because you feel like you're maybe like an outsider of the farming community, but then you feel maybe a bit like the odd one out within like a tiny community because you want to get into farming.
So you're a kind of odd one out in both. And I'm pretty sure there was other folk that were at school at the same time that felt the same, but nobody would ever say anything. Nobody admitted that I go and milk cows at weekends. It sounds ridiculous. I know it does now, but at the time, it's quite a big thing. I think for folk who aren't from farming.
I didn't know about the new Mills pandemic of closet milkers. I
didn't. There's only a few years. Don't let it out of that.
Well, you've just ruined it for everyone. But I get it. Like you said, Maria, it makes a lot of sense from that perspective. When you were sort of a youngster, you're only young, you're not looking at a career, but was sheep ever something you were like, oh, that's fun, or not really?
No, I think
just too young.
I was never like, I'm going to say, is this the right word? This is proof I'm going to say. I was never like academic at school. I was very, very average at school. I hated school.
You're practical. You're not like, I don't think it's fair saying you were average because some folk excel being practical and some folk excel being academic.
School doesn't give you that opportunity.
What I always said when I was at school was I want to work with animals, I want to be my own boss, and I want to have my own land. I've always said that. And I think looking at maybe like the sheep farmer across the road, just him dealing with sheep, to me at a young age, I was like, he gets to pick and choose when he works. It just looked quite fun from the outside. Sheep was never a thing that I was like, oh, I definitely want to get into sheep. I never admitted I wanted to get into farming until I was 21. 22. Just after me going and get engaged was when I really admitted that I wanted to be in farming, even though I was working in farming.
Yeah.
And that's a bit silly, but it sounds like Gordon when you were at school.
I can actually say it, you never said it out loud up until then.
Because you were like, folk are going to laugh at me.
And the longer you leave it, the longer you leave anything, the more of a thing it becomes. So you're like, with everything. And I think we spoke about this in our first recording, which I'm sure I'm going to say a few times tonight. Like, it's a shame that that's a thing, but it's easy to look at it as it's only a thing because it's farming, but it's not. It's a thing with everything.
It's just another stigma. The stigma's in so many things, and it's just another one that it almost isn't. I don't feel it's ever spoke about. You just sort of.
It's never seen as a career cross. There you go. That's my academia thing.
Prospect. For sure. It's not a thing that school guides you towards, and I think like RHET and stuff like that is hopefully maybe changing the game there, but it's not doing that. It's
Does RHET kind of like go towards more primary school age, or is it secondary school as well?
So RHET is aimed at primary school, and I've spoken to a few times. We've got primary school pretty much down with RHET. There's a lot of work to do. We've got education post high school down as well, and we're starting to get into high school, not with RHET. This is like with SRUC, with things like that.
Sounds like I'm just trying to teach everyone farming when I say that, doesn't it? But that's a gap where we've got an issue and we've got to work on it.
That's maybe the most important bit as well, though, because
Definitely.
that's when you're kind of, you have your own ideas, and it's like that pressure of when you're at school, pick your subjects, what do you want to do for the rest of your life, and you're just like, what?
The thing is, like, when there's certain ages in your life, I don't know when you are, but your brain like soaks up everything that you're told. So I'm not saying like it should only be farming, like you should be told everything, but you should be told about farming as well. Like, just simple things like, and it comes for a hen, like milk comes for a cow, like all these like simple things for folk that are in the like cities and stuff. Like they don't understand these.
My mum's just walked in, just trying to be quiet.
I can see her in the window. Hello, Maria.
Everybody just saw that, didn't
they? Oh, she's making my mum.
She's making a cake. She wants a recipe.
This is the rubbish thing about not being in person. I want a bit of cake. Do you know, this is going to turn out the exact same as the other one.
It's fine. I'm on tea this time, so it's fine.
That's a win. That's a win. Turn it as like an alcoholic cake, like a rum cake or something. So you'd sort of found yourself working on a dairy farm at school, Gordon, but you moved on to college and you went on to do poultry. Could you tell us a bit about that? Was that straight from school, or have I got that a bit wrong?
No, that's kind of how it happened. But I left school and went and worked the summer when I left school before I started college. I worked in a hatchery. So basically, there was chicks, broiler chicks, so like basically roasting chickens, or table birds, however you want it.
Mm-hmm.
We hatched them out, and then they were sent out to dairy farms for there. That was my first sort of experience in commercial poultry. Although that hatchery, in terms of like the size of hatcheries, was pretty small. We had 2 hatcheries, and I think we did about 37,000 roughly each day. So you're in about sort of 75,000-80,000. That that's right there. Again, it was that was the kind of numbers that we were sort of hatching every week, and then they were sent away to vegan farms, and then went on that week. And I think that was what I did before college. And then I started college, I did an HNC in poultry production at R2Kast. That was like sort of straight from school kind of thing. I finished up, I actually got into the course because I'd worked over the summer. Because, like Maria said, like none of us are really the most academic people, we're more practical. So because I didn't do that well in my exams at school, which I think is almost quite important for folk, like looking at like careers and stuff, you don't necessarily have to be academic to have a career in something.
Very
I don't mean that to sound in a bad way, like that
Good.
sounds quite bad, but like there's other ways into anything, like not just farming, like any industry. If you're keen enough and you do work, and folk, you'll get there. Like
it's honestly so true, and I don't know if you saw, I put a post up about that on results day, and
I saw that.
I think there's like this push by schools, and I'm not calling out schools, but I am kind of that. It's if you're not good at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 subjects, whatever it is, you're going to fail. I always felt that was the vibe that teachers gave off, and I'm like, oh my god, there's so much more stuff here. Like, you know, and like you guys are saying, you're saying it yourself. Like, as with the story will go today, proof of it, and it's good to see. And what did that year involve, Gordon, doing poultry?
So we basically were. The course was. It was. I felt it was more sort of favoured towards the broiler side. So it taught you about like the sort of parent stock that produced the eggs that were then hatched, which I'd sort of done in the summer before. Although I didn't learn about it, I'd done the sort of practical side of it. It taught us about like the parent stock, the hatching of the eggs, the rearing of the birds, the sort of day-to-day management of that, because their weight gains are that it's all sort of number based in terms of it's like grams per day that they have to be gaining to get to a certain weight. It's not like I'll just keep feeding them and they'll be fine kind of thing. It's very much like weigh them every single day, feed them this amount, and this is the weight they'll gain in this time. It's a very technical thing, I think. Like poultry as a whole, in comparison to other aspects of farming, I'm not like saying they're not techie, but like in terms of numbers and things.
No, I mean, they're not techie. You know, yeah. Yeah.
Yep, so we did that side of it, and there was like obviously a layer element to it as well. So the same sort of things with layers, like the production, how long you kept the birds for, your sort of management of them, your general husbandry, your sort of feeding stuff for them both, like the whole, just sort of learning a pretty good foundation for the whole industry, basically.
When you're talking about the weighing there, and this is probably a daft question, I assume that's batch weighing. It's not like per bird, because that would just be impossible time-wise, I assume. Like 100 at a time, or how does that work?
No, so you kind of see broilers. I've only sort of learned the theory of broilers, other than
Right.
which I've never really worked with them. But with the layers, the proper way of doing it basically is you'll go into your shed and you'll pen off say 50 or 100 birds, and you weigh those birds individually, and then you get an average weight of those birds, and then like you'll do that in maybe 6 or 8 places within the shed, and then you get an average of the weight of the hen. So you'll take them from different places. So the ones that are down sort of lower in your system and higher up in like different places, so that you're getting a sort of even variety of birds, and you've got a variety of weights, and you can really tell how well your flock's doing through that.
That sounds insane. I would never have thought. I thought that was a really stupid question. But apart from
No.
I've actually got scars in my hands from weighing birds, haven't I?
When they're pullets, when you're catching them, they can be quite spooky sometimes.
Aye.
Younger, but they settle down quite.
Aye.
As far as I remember, actually, with broilers, it was you weighed. I think you would get like a basket, you do like 10,
right,
put 10 birds in it, and then obviously whatever your weight was, you got an average of that kind of thing. So it was more a sort of batch weighing type thing.
Yeah. I mean, forgetting the broiler layer difference there, that's really putting your eggs in one basket, isn't it? I would stand up and slap my knee, but it just looks. I'm going to go in a really weird way here. I've sort of went with education for you first, Gordon, but I'm going to go, and then I'm going to go into sort of employment. I'm going to go the other way, Maria, for you, purely because of the way it happened chronologically. So you both sort of talked to this next part, maybe yourself a bit more, Gordon, but you found yourself at Old Houseburn, I guess is the correct way of saying it. How did you both come to be there?
I started at Old Houseburn part-time, so I was at Oak Ridge College for two years prior studying equine. I only went and studied equine because I enjoyed my horses, and I went through a bit of a rough patch of depression. My mum was like, why wouldn't you go study equine? So I was like, yeah, I will. So I moved up to Oak Ridge and done that for 2 years, but I always knew I didn't want to work with horses because it's like slave labour, the amount of stuff you have to go through. Honestly, as the equine industry is just totally buggled. But I just done it because I enjoyed it. But I left Oak Ridge after 2 years and looking for a part-time job or a full-time job. And yeah, living near Kirk, I just went up and asked if they had any jobs going, and they had a part-time position. So that's how I kind of ended up there. It was just by chance because I lived down the hill. Wasn't because I wanted to work in poultry.
No.
I just wanted a job, but I wanted it to be in agriculture.
You mean this was not?
But like you said earlier on, you never actually said you wanted to work in agriculture before that.
No, I didn't.
You were looking at jobs in like
Ireland and everything, right?
Like equine jobs in like Ireland and Aberdeen.
I was about to leave to go to Aberdeen.
So before I was there, just to go back maybe a year or so before that, it was actually the guy that was doing the groundworks for the shed that was getting built at Old Houseburn originally knew my dad. My dad's a plumber, so he contacted my dad to actually fit a toilet within the shed, and then that was how I found out about it. And I think I actually went with him, and like when he went to see the job, just because I was interested in poultry, and I think I potentially sent him my CV. I think I did actually after that, and they phoned me, and it's kind of what you get when you apply for jobs like that. Oh, we're not looking for anybody just now, but I'll keep your CV in file. And I was like, fair enough, whatever. Like, I'll never hear from you again, sort of thing. I got another job at a different poultry farm. It was a cage unit producing eggs, and they had a sort of part-time processing plant as well. it was quite small, but it was a kind of niche thing that they did. So I was there for about 9-10 months, and then they'd actually phoned me. I was talking to me about this the other day. Remember, like Shirley phoned me, and I came home, and Dad was like, "Oh, like there was somebody from a farm in York. Remember we went to see it. It was somebody called Shirley who phoned you. You'll need to phone her back." I was like, "Aye, all right." And that was kind of the extent of it. So I was like, "Well, I've got a job. Like, why am I going to phone somebody else for a job?" And it was like a few days later, I think she'd phoned again, and then Dad was like, "Oh, here's his mobile number." So she phoned my mobile, and I was like, "Right, okay, I'll come up." And I basically went up, and they sort of showed me around about the shed and things, and said, like, "You can start if you want, let us know." So I did, and then I was there for, 9 years? Basically 9 years I was there.
I was there 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? When you sort of said that story, Gordon, I should really have remembered a lot of this stuff and remembered. I realised
it's alright because I'm adding in a lot of things as well. I'm like, oh, that's like
I had an absolute fear the next morning at Alan's show, and I was like, "What did I say? I can't remember." And I was like, I remember it was like nearly 2 hours or 2 hours, and I was like, I can't remember anything.
So the audio was actually fine. I just knew I couldn't release it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
It was a lot of gibberish, wasn't
it? Yeah, when I said it was down to 7 minutes, that was all I could use. No, it's so tell us about Old Houseburn, very much famous in the farming community for the blackie side, and the sheep side, but also big in the poultry side too. So, well, I'm here to hear your guys' story about the poultry side. So tell us about that.
I started part-time, basically as a general shed worker, so running eggs, checking the hens, walking sheds, cleaning a lot. I just started part-time, but
you were saying sort of part-time running a shed.
Well, no at first, but once I went full-time, I think 3 months later, because they built a third shed of 32,000. And that's actually when me and Gordon were put in the shed together to work. And I ended up kind of running it under your management more so, because you're managing the whole poultry side, so you were never in the shed, so I had to just get on with it.
Aye, so I started, there was 32,000 when I first went there, and I started in August, and there was another shed being built, but it was like 16,000. So like all the sheds are built in sort of half. So I always call it a half. So it's like 16,000 in half. So the first half of the next shed was being built, and that was the plan was for me to go there once it was completed. So, what would that be? Heading my maths. 8-9 months later, I moved down into that shed of 16,000, and I think it was 2 years after that, like the other half was built. So then it was a 32.
They kind of expanded it, so.
Yeah, it was.
There was three sheds of 32,000 when we were working there together.
Yeah, it was sort of expanding all the time, and once the third 32,000 came on, that was when I sort of took over the management of the whole place, and that was at the point that.
And he met me, and it was the best day of his life.
Unfortunately, they gave her a job, and she's never left me.
It's funny that Maria says it was the best day of Gordon's life, because he has many a time said that it was not the best day of her life because, well, you can tell us, Maria, tell us about the first time. Tell us about the time, your meet cute, the adorable time you came together for the first time.
It was very romantic. I was running eggs, and the girl that I was
working with, didn't know.
The girl I was working
actually
with,
romantic, I never knew that.
she said, she's like, "Oh, the boy at the other shed, he's just texted me. He's coming up here, he's got eggshell in his eye." And I was like, how? Like, how? Unless you're literally just going with an egg in your eye, how is that happening?
It's because I heard you were working at it. So
I
smashed an egg in my eye, and I just wanted to come see.
Was that so you couldn't see, or was that?
I was like, I've heard about it, I don't want to see anymore.
So that was the first time we met, wasn't it? The eggshell in your eye.
And you laughed at me and thought, he's a good one, him.
Not quite.
Cute. Oh, what a cute little story. That's up there with Mel and Martin's meeting story. I love a wee meeting story. They're good fun when I do the Jewel podcasts. I probably could say you sold it a bit better when you were steaming.
Yeah, because I think I went on to the second and third time I met him when he
You did,
got
yeah.
15 gig tickets and things, yeah.
I thought we were just going to get like a date for every date you'd had for the last 6 years that night, to be honest. Yeah, no, quite a funny one. So how long after you started did you both leave? Did you leave at the same time or no?
No, I left first. So I was there 2.5 years full time and a wee bit longer part time. But I left. Basically, I had learned all I could, and I wasn't going to progress in the job. And kind of I learned everything I learned was from Gordon. I couldn't progress. I thought I want to try something different now. And that's when I applied to study SRUC again and do agriculture.
So
I got a bit of sense knocked into me and went to do agriculture.
That was when you finally sort of said,
Yeah.
You said to me you actually wanted to work in agriculture. You'd done it
Yeah.
essentially for something.
Plainly for my mental health, I think, actually, just to do something that I enjoyed at the time.
That's something to do. It sounds bad, but you enjoyed it. And then after you actually started working agriculture, you thought, no, I can actually say this is what I want to do, because the other thing, it wasn't just us then that weren't from agriculture. The other people we were working with weren't from agriculture either.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other people within the poultry shed. So
yeah,
but we were the only ones that wanted to do it.
We were the only ones that were actually interested in the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
So it sort of normalised not being from the industry and working in the industry.
Yeah,
without us actually realising it, but it probably made, especially Maria, more comfortable in actually admitting that that's what she wanted to do, and then going on to study. No, that sounds
no, but it probably is the word though. When you talk about earlier, it probably is the word, and it's good that you sort of came round to realise that, well, no, I don't have to hide this.
Yeah, but I genuinely thought if you do farming, you have to be born into it. And I thought at the time a young girl saying, I want to be a farmer. I want to be farming.
Especially
not coming from farming and being a woman, I was like, people are going to laugh at me.
As you say, it sounds bad, but like because you're a woman as well.
Yeah.
It makes it
worse.
Well, it's horrendous. But I mean, you'd said before that one of your podcasts, did you not say you were 65% of farmers in the world are women?
Yeah, it's like, and now that's the world though. I think it's 67, something like that. But so it's from what I understand, the UK, that's the other way around. Maybe not as far the other way around, but globally, yeah. The man will go out and do the making money, and the woman will farm the land, over the courses of like South America, Indonesia's, Africa's, that sort of thing. But as the story will go, you've proved that whole woman, person not from farming, both of you don't think you're a woman, Gordon. It's 2022, I can't assume. That doesn't matter, and you're proof of that, and we'll get into that. But could you tell us about your experience at college, Maria? Second time, yeah.
My experience of it. Do you know what? I was actually quite fascinated when I went. I don't know if you remember. Most of my class was young girls. I don't even know if you remember.
It was, yeah.
And I was really
Martin was the only.
Duncan. James.
Oh, it was Duncan that year, yeah.
James,
No, definitely never met those.
All right, sorry.
Yes, I was quite surprised going in. I was quite nervous, obviously, because I was like, I'm not from farming. But seeing it was quite a lot of women, I was like, right, this is okay. But I was the only one not from farming. But everyone was so welcoming, which I was quite nervous about. And funnily enough, me working in poultry and maybe hearing things from like you about even some of the stuff you heard with the sheep, there was things that I knew in farming that people that I made friends with didn't know. So you kind of actually bounce off each other and learn things off each other, which I was kind of like wasn't expecting.
It's like that though, and being a student, I was a student for 5 years, the amount of times you find, like you had the thing you knew about farming, poultry was a thing you were aware of, but people also, if they're new to it entirely, people know something about something different.
Aye.
And you learn that, and it's more than just what's in the curriculum that you learn, so it's good that way. I'm just actually going through my head, that would it be you, Charlotte, was Sophie that year?
Yep.
Emma was Ag Science, wasn't she? Heather, of course, yeah.
Yeah, she was Ag Science. Emma, Caitlin, Martin.
Oh, Caitlin, that's right, yeah, of course.
Oh my God. Freezing? No, that's not right.
The year above me was similar, maybe not quite as one-sided, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, and I think there were 17 in that group.
Right.
Ours was very much more the other way. We had 17, and we had Shannon, Lisa, Amy, Brogan. Oh, that's bad. 4 or 5 girls. So it was a wee, well, not a huge turnover, but it's quite weird how it's just massive one way, massive the other way.
Because when I was at Oak Ridge, I would say it's maybe more of an even split from what I looked at. And outside the ads, they'd always, God, they were like a little clan. Like, you'd never see them apart. There were just hundreds of them. No wonder I was nervous about going out into this farm. I was like, I don't belong in this group.
Just a proper force field around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
With
sure.
rugby shirts on.
You're not invested in your first check shot yet. You couldn't do that.
Oh, that was the thing with the Highland Show, wasn't it?
No, I really enjoyed my time at AIR. I was most looking forward to the livestock modules, but what surprised me was the soil and the agronomy was my favourite by far. The Jeremy,
a great guy.
By far the best lecturer. Well, for me anyway, I just thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He's like one of those guys you ask him anything and he just knows the answer.
He is insane that way. I mean, it's weird, right? Because I'm now his colleague, right? And he'll come into the office and I just feel like I'm a student again. I'm like, Jeremy, tell me about your trip to Borneo. Like, you know, where are we going on the map today? And he knows exactly where his massive central pivot irrigation is in this map. He just like, perfect, here we are. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. Great guy. Great guy to learn from, both, like you're saying, as a student, and then now for myself,
working with
a
them.
lecturer as well. Yeah, great guy. So I'll make sure he listens so he hears that. I told him that you mentioned that. You might not remember this, but you mentioned that the last time as well. So I told him that. Yeah, I told him.
He probably doesn't remember me.
No, that's what he said. Who's that? No, I'm joking.
Probably did. I mean, wait, is that the girl that was really, really shit at maths? That's me. Me and Heather. We were so bad at maths.
You always used to say that, and you're like, actually, because Jeremy actually helps me.
He helped me and Heather with maths all the time because we couldn't. No, maths is
so
not my thing.
That's why Jeremy was one of my favourite lecturers, because, and this sounds cocky, it's not cocky, it's what happened for a really niche reason. He absolutely loved me as a student because it was all maths, yeah. A lot of it was maths, resource management, whatever, all that sort of thing.
Right, okay.
And I would just sit there and answer things like that without a calculator, and he was like, we have a genius here. And then he realised, I forgot my name. I could just count like it was he would just be like, Wallace, right, central pivot, 50-metre radius, what area is that? And I'm like, this is it'd sort of shout the answer out. So it was but no, very good classes. But yeah, so 2 years you did, Maria,
Yeah, HNC, HND.
Yeah.
Kind of wish I stayed on for my degree, but at that point I kind of had enough of. I was scunning with the studying S's, and then I went on and done calf reading. I'm still doing that part time actually. Calf reading.
all right. I maybe did I know that? Maybe I did.
Milk recording, was that?
I was milk recording when I was studying at college. I had 2 jobs when I was studying, so I was working for the SBC, milk recording, studying. No wonder I was scunning actually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then I went on done calf reading and milking, and I'm still at that farm now, at Brown Hill. I'm still there.
Oh, you're at Brown Hill?
Aye.
You definitely didn't say that last time.
I know.
No, you didn't.
I just assume people know because I've been there
You've been there a while now.
3 years.
How's Parky doing? Haven't seen him in forever.
Aye. Do you know what? See, I think you can learn a lot off of him as well.
Yeah.
Pick his brains. I think.
Clever guy.
Really, yeah, he is. I actually think Gordon and him, see if you had a talk about genetics, although he'd be genetics with cows and we'd be the chickens, I think I could sit and listen to these and go, oh my God, learn quite a lot.
There's things that I see working in dairy now that you can see the kind of genetic. I know that sounds silly, but like because I'm kind of interested in genetics, I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, that cow's like that because of that. Like you get, like dairy cows, I think there's such a variation in them because you have, maybe sounds silly, you have like heavier, like fat cows and like leaner cows and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Because of my background in poultry, I'm like, oh, that's all genetic.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly a massive part of it because chances are they're going to be in similar rations. So, you know,
actually, to me, everything that happens because of the way I worked in poultry, it's like that hen does everything because of her genetics. Like she eats the amount she does, she behaves the way she does, she lays the size, shape, colour of egg she does because of genetics. So I'm like, surely a dairy cow's not exactly the same, but like everything that she does, like a fat score or whatever you call it. And like
it's not exactly the same, but it's very much
Aye.
as it is with us, as it is with sheep, as it is with whatever. And on that, Gordon, on sort of poultry genetics and whatnot, and I'm going to say before he says this, so he can't do it again. When he explained this last time, he undersold it so much, right?
I know what they're going to say, and I've been thinking about a better answer, and I haven't got one.
Well, basically, tell us about Germany and why I'm bringing Germany up, and then I'll ask you the exact same question after and see if you do it.
Do you know what? I'm clueless. I don't know what the question is. I'm like,
I know
No, you don't know anything, Musbury, do you?
I don't actually have a better answer. Like,
Right, okay, forget. Just tell us about Germany. What was Germany?
Right, so Germany's this country, right? It's like a part of Europe.
Yeah.
Nah, so basically when I was working at Old House Farm, the breeder birds that they had it was Lomans. So they've got different variations of a bird kind of thing.
Yep.
So that breed company invited me to go to Germany to learn more about their breed. I'm not saying this to you as a question because I feel like I'm not saying the right thing. So I was invited to go to Germany by Loman GB. There was only a select sort of
there's only 20 of us.
20, 30 folk like globally got invited every year to it. The idea was that you would go out and they would teach you everything about their breed and how to manage it properly and improve on your production from it and your production. I think that kind of sums it up, basically.
Yeah, getting the best out of that.
Yeah, and it gave you a good chance to meet other producers from all over the world, basically. That some of them didn't necessarily even have Lomans. Most of them had some Loman in some way or another, but some of them had other breeds. I was always kind of between Highline and Loman.
Right.
Were the two kind of main ones at the time, I feel. When I was there.
And when we filmed the last time, due to the fact I'd had one or two Ribenas, the way I asked this next question was quite rude, actually. I think what I said.
I remember.
Yeah. I think what I said was basically, "Why did they pick you?"
I don't think you said why did they pick you. I think you just went, why you?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Why you? That was it. And
God.
in fairness, trying to work out a better way to say it is quite difficult because I do mean that. I don't mean it like, why in God's earth did they choose you? But Gordon's answer last time was, I don't know, just like they must just like me a bit. And I'm like, Gordon, there's 20 folk from the whole planet. Why? It must be more than, he had a nice t-shirt on, like there must be some reason.
But like,
do you know what?
You're laughing because I can't even think of a better answer other than it was ever what was it? Was it technical?
I think he's a lot smarter. And he's actually got a lot more potential than what he actually will ever admit to.
He absolutely does.
Okay. He is not. Golden.
I think I've got a lot of knowledge. Like I can sit and talk to you about hens for the next 3 years, like easily. I could just talk to you about these stuff, but I don't.
That's my life, by the way.
That's maybe life. But if somebody asks me things, I always doubt myself, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know the answer to that. When I do, but I think essentially I was asked to go to Germany because somebody else, like Maria was saying, they saw potential in me, and they saw that I had a serious, genuine interest in poultry and the industry as a whole. And I think
it's quite rare.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, did you not say not many folk have the qualification you have?
Yeah. So when I went to college, there was 7 people started the course, started HNC, and 5 I think it was, finished it.
Yeah.
So the guy from Loman GB, Kenny Shaw, I think he'd studied poultry,
Mhm.
but I don't think he actually knew anybody else who had studied poultry, which sounds mad, but
It does. It does.
he knew like so many folk within the industry because his job, he'd worked at Glenrath for I don't know how many years, and then he went to work at Lowman, and he'd been at a lot of different places, so he knew a lot of people in the industry. He
Aye.
didn't know anybody else that was that interested to actually go and study it.
But you also progressed working.
I progressed
You
working.
progressed working at that farm from like the shed worker to then the supervisor to then managing it, and you were always a go-to, and you just ran everything. You just knew what you were doing.
Like it got to a point where anything to do with the poultry, so like there was the guys for like the genetics companies, so like Kenny, it was at time for Lowman, and then there was Elwyn from Highline and stuff, and then there was other feed companies as well. They basically phoned me. Like they didn't bother with anybody. They just phoned me and they're like, right, are you needing this? Are you wanting that? What we're doing about this? What we're doing about that?
Yeah.
I'm coming in this day. Is that so? Yeah, like it wasn't. I know that sort of sounds obvious as being part of a manager, but
it was like what the rations and things like that, and the speed and what.
I knew. I just know it. If you know what I mean. Like, I know that sounds so silly, but I think from Kenny's point of view, he saw that in me, and he saw that I was picking these things up and I was paying attention to how everything was going, and I was keen to learn more and go forward. And it was that he saw in me. I think that he's potentially in all the places he was in Scotland, he didn't see anybody else who was as enthusiastic or keen to.
I would say you've answered that much better this time.
Yeah.
I hope so.
No, absolutely. I'll go back. I'll edit that one bit out. The one from the first one and send you it. You just like, I'm like, why you? And you're like, they shouldn't have taken me.
And I was that keen to go because the crack, and it was basically everything was all paid for, and you get free drink all week.
Well, that's it. And it's quite funny. I mean, we originally spoke at the Highland, or not originally, but when we spoke at the Highland, that was one of the things you mentioned. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be class. Can't wait to ask him. And he's like, nah. No, much better, I'd say, on that one, Gordon. So Maria had left to go to college. How long were you still working there for?
9 months.
How long was I still there?
9 months after.
Right.
When did you start college? September. Sorry, I should know these things.
You must have started college in September 2018.
17.
Was it 17?
Married 2018. Because you were there. You were fourth year when I was first year. Is that right?
I graduated in 18. That's right. 2017.
2017. I started here.
Right. So you started September 17, and I left December 18.
No, was it? No, we were married. We were married October 18.
I didn't just leave a few months after you.
No, I left in the
It's in September.
March. No, I left in the spring, and I was milk recording all summer.
Oh,
and then I started.
Sorry, that's it was you left before you didn't leave to go straight to college.
No, I left and I started milk recording, and then I was in college.
So I left December 2017.
So like 9 months later.
Sorry, 9 months later.
Maria's always right.
And look, that's it worked out. I was speaking to someone recently, and they were talking to their daughter, and they were like, "Oh, she's 17 in March," and she was like, "February, Dad." I was like, "Oh."
That'll be me because I'm terrible with like time frames and stuff. Like now, I'm getting so much worse because I'm like.
It's just all rolling into one, isn't it?
He's got so much on. And do you know, Maria, one thing we didn't talk about last time, along with the list of 400, we seemed to miss, was we didn't really go into milk recording. Milk recording's a job that a lot of people find their way into agriculture with. And tell us about it. What does it involve?
I actually did. It's probably one of my favourite jobs. So basically, you have to do like the data side. So you do, usually it would be like 2 milkings you record. So you'd go in the afternoon and I'd go like an hour and a half before the milking start, and I'd get all the farmers' data in. So always dry cows, anything that's been culled, put all that information in. and it basically flings up your numbers, so your plots, set all that up, and then when he's milking, you basically take, I'm not sure quantity wise, but you basically take a sample of every cow's milk.
Oh, right. I don't think I actually realised that. Right, okay. Yeah.
I should know what they're called, but it's these little containers. You agitate the milk, so it's like
Right.
you're milking the cow, and it's like every cluster's kind of like.
The ones that we've got ours is slightly different because it's not a
You
tested
basically
product.
agitate the milk, and it gives you a small sample for that cow, and then you go again in the morning and take another sample from each cow.
Right.
It's quite, you've got to be on the ball with it. You need to be paying attention all the time because you can't mix up milk samples.
Aye.
I mean, in case any cows have got yonies or whatever. But I love that job. I think I had 14 or 16 farms I had.
Right, okay.
All around Ayrshire, self-employed. I actually loved it. I think it maybe gave me a wee bit of confidence going into college because I was starting to go into other farms and I wasn't afraid to go, well, I'm new to it, because I was like, I'm new to it, so I'm still learning. And getting familiar with farm names and farmers round about, and I kind of felt a bit more confident myself maybe as well.
It helps. It does, especially in farming, that sort of getting onto other farms and whatnot. And it's, to be honest, in my job, it's probably something I'm not doing enough, just because I'm in the job I'm in.
Yeah.
Did you work for the same company that Mary Fisher did? You'd have been just after her you started if you did.
What do you mean? I worked for NMR.
I can't remember.
EPI.
But yeah, no, a good job, and it's a job that a lot of folk that are sort of on the periphery getting into agriculture jump into at first.
Yeah, I think from what I kind of understand, when I kind of left the job after what, a year and a half, 2 years, they were struggling for people.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if it's just the early mornings, like literally getting shat on, and I'm going, I love this job, but I did.
I think it almost
Perfect.
It kind of gave you an insight into. I say an insight. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but it gave you a step into the industry, and you sort of speaking to other farmers and things. It sounds stupid, like speaking to a farmer, because if you don't know any farmers,
you're very much like, you've been in poultry so long. Now you're working at a dairy farm, but I've done like different things like milk recordings, calf rearing, milking, lambings. I've probably done a wee bit more of everything, but just a wee bit just to try it.
Yes.
You probably get more experience in more areas, whereas I'm very like, I was just poultry and just dairy.
Aye, I wouldn't say I've got more experience, but I would just say I'm more familiar with different systems and
you've been in like right techie systems like rotaries and stuff, and you've also recorded in a bio.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that's the extent of the different types of systems. Whereas I've been in,
they're getting a sample for cow on that side, and then they're moving the cluster, and I'm like, oh my god.
they're done market rates on the night.
Good times.
Yeah, no, it sounds good times. It's funny that while recording in a buyer, there's a guy I had on who, if you watch YouTube, you'll be heard of him. If you don't, you probably won't have the funky farmer, Richard Cornick. And
you've had him on.
Yeah. Oh yes, you know, of course you know him. That's right. Of course, you'll have listened 17 times. But he came on
all your views, you know that.
Yeah, I thought it had really flown up since he's found the podcast. But his biggest YouTube video has 19 million views, and it is just of him sitting milking in the barn parlour. I think it's big in India. I think it blew up.
There was that TikTok I made of me milking. I sped it up. Remember?
You didn't get 19 million views.
There's potential, Maria. There's potential.
I'll get a video of you running eggs.
Give it time to it. If TikTok's still around in 2940, we might be at 19.
And that concludes the interview for today.
That's it. When you keep checking to see it. Oh, Maria, it's up at 20. Yes, that's because you've just watched it again. Yeah. Oh, very good, very good. I can't fully remember exactly when the sort of time zones were here. If you started in 2017, you would have graduated 2020, late 2020. Is that right? If I got that right?
I left
June
2019. I left after my HND. I should have stayed on. That's a regret. I regret is not staying on for my degree, actually.
Sorry, 2019 course. Yeah, of course. 2017, 2018.
2018 to 2019.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So just before COVID, then, what would that be? 6 or 8? No, 10 months before COVID. You would have graduated, and COVID came around, and we all had a 2-week holiday, apparently. So I think it was supposed to be at the time. But it was around this time, and I'm beginning to realise as we've gone here, sort of the memories I've got of the discussion last time. I don't think we were completely accurate when we spoke about it last time, because some things I'm like, where were we here? I can't remember. We could have been. Maybe I was wrong. Was COVID what spurred on? Well, no, it wasn't what spurred on. Wee Brown Hens was around before COVID, but where did Wee Brown Hens come from? What started it? I think it would be a good way to look at this, given we had the discussion last time, was you guys were in a place with 96,000 hens, and that changed somewhat. That went down a little bit.
I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry.
Sorry.
So
Oh, God.
I left because
We kind of just all spoke about, wouldn't it be great if we had our own hens, because I was like, Gordon knows his stuff, so it'd be all right.
I basically I've been working with big numbers, and I said in my head, I was like, I could have 16,000 hens, like that's not a lot. Like, because I was used to 96,000, I was like, 16's easy, I can do that in my sleep. It's practically a part-time job to me, because I've been doing it which sounds a bit sort of blasé. It's not really like that, like, there's obviously a lot to it, but so I kind of looked into that side a wee bit, and I realised that wasn't really feasible. Not being from farming or anything to like. Basically, it was, wasn't it?
I love it. It's brilliant. I love it.
When you actually start doing the sums and stuff like that, this just isn't going to happen. And I was like, I need to do something. I wanted to do something for myself, because I felt I gained enough. No, not gained enough knowledge. I just felt I could do it myself, which sounds quite.
But we could. I had to bring Gordon back down and go, we don't ship money. What are you talking about?
And we don't own any ground.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so I kind of want to change as well, mix things up a wee bit, but wanted to stay with our agriculture. And I heard about a job through a fencer, actually, about a job at a dairy farm. And I was like, right, okay, so.
Because of biosecurity, if we wanted to start a little business, we couldn't work on, like, Gordon couldn't be working on the poultry farm for biosecurity.
So I heard about a job in the dairy farm, went and spoke about it, sounded really good, and I went for it. And it was kind of, to be fair, I didn't just decide overnight. It wasn't a drop in a hat thing, because I'd been in that for so long. I was nervous about it. I was like, am I ever going to actually work in poultry again? Which sounds ridiculous now, but at the time I was like, poultry's my thing. Like, it's what I do. It's what I know. I've been German.
Why though? Why?
I left while Maria was trying to bring me back down to Earth and get away for 16,000 hens.
I just basically said to Gordon, I was like, we need to just start.
Do something.
So
don't sit and talk about it. Do something.
We ordered 30 hens, and we bought an old
shed off
a Gumtree, and the guy that you're working for now, Alec, he said you can use this patch of ground on my farm.
Which he had hens on it years ago.
Yeah, so we just started with 30 hens, and I think I posted I opened like a little Facebook page, and I posted a picture and went, these hens are 17 weeks old or something like that, and I was like, they'll be laying soon.
They'll be laying eggs soon. If anybody wants,
if you want eggs, let me know. So
that's basically it. Aye.
And I remember it got to 20 page likes, and I was like, whoa.
Is that the photo that it was like at the side of a shed, and there was hens in this thin race? Because I always remember you posting that, and I remember I shared your page. I don't know if you started your page before me, but you must have.
That was 2018.
Oh, so you started 2 years before that then. So it must have been April 2020.
No.
Did you not start?
Did you not have the page before that?
April 12th, 2020. Yeah, that's when I started the Facebook page.
I thought it was before that.
I thought you were
I
before.
thought it was a year before that.
There was an Instagram with 17 photos on it from 2017, but 27 photos.
Oh, right.
17 photos, yeah. So no, not really.
Oh,
April.
it's not a year before that.
I
No,
didn't think it was a year, but I thought it was. Well, I thought it was 2019, but no.
no, it's only 2 years at the minute.
So did you start Now Your People in Farming? Was that
People in Farming started. I
2020?
think it was the 24th of July, 2020.
Was that?
Yeah,
He doesn't.
Flavian Obiero, number one.
That's right.
But sorry, yes.
Oh,
So
Put the post up, 30 hens.
yeah, and
didn't-
once they started laying, I just kind of posted a couple of pictures, and I was freaking out. I said to my mum, "What have I done? What have I actually done?" I was like, "What if nobody buys these eggs? What am I going to do?"
It was suddenly we had the pressure of 30 hens were laying us roughly 27 eggs a day.
Yeah.
And about there. It was suddenly the pressure then of getting rid of 27 eggs every day.
Aye.
Sounds
Which
ridiculous.
sounds mental, but when we were used to working with such big numbers, I was like, it's only 30 hens. But suddenly when you
Do you
have
know what
that,
I've not
you need to
mentioned?
market
It was
it.
a small grant I got from SRUC and Ian, and I don't know if they do this anymore. It was open to people not from farming backgrounds. I think it was I want to say Thomas. Oh my god.
Yes,
Yes. Did they still do that?
it's still around.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Like
The
baby
guys-
bakers and you're like, oh,
No, I can't.
Oh, I can't remember his
What?
name. The
Tom?
guy-
I want to say lamb.
I want to say Thomas Lamb. Thomas
no, it's
I
not.
don't think that-
Lamb.
He's like travelled the world, and I think if there's a Thomas something.
No,
we've got-
No,
It's
that's
not the same thing.
this guy was
Basi-
well.
It was a thing. I got an email up from SRUC when I was studying there the first year. Basically, it was like a small grant open to people not from farming that would help you do courses or anything that you want to do to kind of right. And basically, it came about because this young boy, I want to say from Straven, I think he wasn't from farming background but was keen to study agriculture. I think he died at 16.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh no.
Oh,
Wrong.
do they not do that anymore?
No. Well, no. Like I'm not saying you're wrong. I've never heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's how I could afford to buy 30 hens in an old garden shed. That's how I started it.
Essentially,
Yeah.
what the money gave us was it gave us money to buy a shed, buy the first 30 hens. I was
And
like
some
a feeder, a drinker,
Oh my god, some egg boxes and labels.
some egg boxes.
Ah.
Yeah. Sounds stupid. And
Basically got it started, that wee
Yeah,
wee grant that
absolutely.
we got from SRUC.
aye, that's how it came about. And then we started with we'd sold the eggs basically to friends and family. Initially, that's kind of what it was. It was friends and family, and then
A few people from the village that we lived in, and I
But
was
the
like,
thing is,
"Oh,
like-
this is weird."
aye, like you still say this for like, why would folk buy eggs from us? Like,
Aye,
and I know that
still
sounds
don't
really
get it.
bad. Like that's a horrendous advert for us. It was
It's,
like,
it's not. And this is going to sound like I'm saying it's not you they're buying it from. It's not you. It's the local thing, and it's these young guys are keen and they're reading local eggs. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now you're saying it sounds crazy. It sounds silly that we couldn't sell. Was it 27 eggs a day? You said it was.
Yeah.
That-
Right.
Well, what's that? That's 189 eggs a week. So that's 31 and a bit dozen. It's a fair chunk. That's a fair chunk of eggs.
you ain't good at it.
Yeah, when you say it, you put it that way. That's a fair chunk of eggs.
The way
Um,
the time I looked at it is we knew folk that took a train. So I was like, well, every person, only 7 folk take a train.
Mhm.
7 folk take a train.
Aye, sorry,
Oh,
a
tray.
tray, sorry, like a
Tray
tray of
a
30
day.
eggs. I was counting it as a tray a day. I know it's not quite
I
that.
was like, what's public transport got to do with this? I was so confused there. So we're sitting with 30 hens, much more eggs than you seem to realise, and a shed off Gumtree. What was next?
We just kind of kept building on that. So I think from 30 hens, we went up to 80 hens. So we got another 50 pullets. And I think after that, was it another
You know, for
50? or 30.
For 40.
I think we got up to about 100 hens.
120 because we'd 40 each shed.
They were dotted about in these little random garden sheds on on Alex land, basically, and we were just selling them locally, doing doorstep delivery. But that all kind of changed quickly when COVID came about. I think Boris Johnson put the lockdown in place, and he was like, right, use delivery services. And it was the next day that the phones kind of went mental, and everyone wanted eggs. And I woke you up panicking, going, "What have you done?" Because I think it was Ayrshire Daily News that shared our post, or
That was right.
page or something like that, and it got 45,000 reactions or something. Not
45,
reactions,
no, 45,000 views.
views.
On the post.
Aye.
Yeah.
I'm not very techy at
Which,
all.
to put that into perspective, like you can understand this was obviously with your page, but
Yeah.
I think we had about 250 or 300
Something,
likes on our page.
Which is insane, because on Facebook at that point, Facebook was pretty good. Facebook was quite good then, it's not now, for reach. So what would happen was you would probably be sitting about 107 to 115% reach of what you have followers. So you should have been getting posts with about 220. You know, to go up to that 45,000 is insane.
Oh, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
just cried. I just
But
cried all the time.
at
I
the
just
same-
couldn't cope with the stress.
At the same time,
That's the one
we were still working.
That is the one thing you've said, the exact same as you said. I just cried all the time. That's
It's wrong.
exact-
You were working full time in the dairy farm. I was calving and milking, so I had that time during the day. And
but you were
I just crying from God, and I was like, I can't do
I
this
used to-
anymore.
we used to kind of, it's bad that after it we laughed with it because you're the Tuesday breakdown.
Aye. So before delivery started for the week, I would just have a meltdown.
Mid-morning Tuesday, 10:30ish, you'd phone me, greeting them like that.
Gordon started taking all my phone calls.
I'm kind of like,
What?
I like moved cars
Yeah.
about fields or something, and Maria's phoning me, greeting down the phone.
Aye.
It's all right, just write down their names and addresses, we'll sort it.
Basically, COVID came about and the egg orders went shooting up, obviously.
Yeah.
And we just said to her, we just kind of thought, bugger it, we may as well just go for it.
Mhm.
So we ordered 500 hens, and we said to our dads, like, we've ordered 500 hens, they're coming in 6 weeks' time, so we need a shed. Can you help us build it? And they just laughed. And I was like, I'm actually being serious, like, they're coming in 6 weeks, we need to do this, like, we need to do this now. And literally for 6 weeks, our families just, everyone just chipped in and just,
It was me and Dad that like sort
your
of-
dad designed the shed.
Yeah, obviously my knowledge and stuff from being within the industry, I knew what had to be in the shed, like stocking densities, the floor area, the top hole size,
Yeah.
perch area, all that kind of stuff. I knew that, and I just kind of said to Dad, I was like, what can we build? How much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
Because he's
Your
in the
dad's
building,
quite narky.
yeah, he's in the building trade, so he he can get prices and stuff. He can get
Right.
sensible quotes and things.
So
So
we've
like,
done it all, we've done it in 6 weeks, and
Yeah, between-
500 hens were in.
yeah, basically,
Excuse me.
it was a heavy going 6 weeks. I think, but we got there.
So you've got the shed up after after what was probably quite an exciting conversation for you and a daunting conversation at the same time. We need a shed in 6 weeks. So you filled that up with what that must have been 650-ish hens, is that right? Or no? Am I wrong?
So we still had you can't add, for biosecurity reasons, you can't add older hens in your new pullets.
Okay,
We
right.
had, we had
Okay.
the shed of 500, and then we had the little ones dotted about still in
Yeah.
the garden sheds. So that's kind of how we've done it.
And that's the point. Are you, I mean, now it's not a case of 30, it's a case of much more. We'll get into where you are at the minute. I can't actually remember exactly where you are at the minute, but do you buy in point of lay now? So you're not having to rear, because that's like, 16, 18 weeks, is that about right, roughly?
Yeah, so we
Um, Or do
We
you
buy
buy
differently, yeah.
point of lay? Yeah.
yeah, so the point is that we buy in a sort of kind of 15, 16 weeks. I'm about 16 weeks old, and then we basically it's sort of 3 weeks after that.
Well, commercially, like bigger
Commercially, you're
then
looking
yes,
at 3
but
weeks after that. But
because you're doing things a bit differently.
Yeah, more extensive for
At
sure.
19, 20 weeks, you're kind of
Yeah.
happy with.
we're looking at sort of a week beyond that, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot.
It's a lot when
When you're feeding them, and you're not getting anything back from them.
How many birds have you got now? Sorry.
600.
600.
Yeah.
And where do you get those pointilleys from? Is that come from? Do you have the same person all the time, or do you just buy them from whatever?
So sometimes it's a company called T-Pack from Forfa.
Right.
He has rearing sites. I'm not entirely sure. They're dotted about Scotland. So between us and Forfa, he has rearing sites that he uses. Also, another company that I used for the ones that we've got just now is GSR Services.
Mm-hmm.
They are Blair Gowrie they're in. So they've got laying sheds and stuff. They do a bit of rearing and things for their own birds, and they do a bit of rearing for other producers as well. Large commercial folk, and they do a bit of small scale stuff as well. So
Right.
we've got the last ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Excellent. And just sort of doing a bit of maths from what you said on the 30, if it was 27 that were doing 27 eggs a day, are you looking at about 540 roughly a day, or is it more or less than that?
kind of in about there.
Yeah.
Gordon's a math guy.
I know I'm saying
the
it is kind of
egg
rough. Like,
Yeah. No, it's obviously not
like,
going to be.
like, I got all these boxes today.
But seriously, when you're thinking about that, right? I know, Gordon, your plan was to jump to 16,000, and yeah, you are 30. That's no, sorry, Maria, you're not 30, but you know what I mean. Like you're around that. It's not like you are 50 yet. That's probably going to be the goal if you keep going. But at 540 eggs, that's still what I don't actually know. What is that? That is still 90 boxes. Is that right?
I don't work it in dozens.
No, I don't work
it in dozens.
No, it's, what did you say? Sorry, 90 boxes.
90, is that right? No, God, no, I'm wrong. It would be 100.
About 90 half dozen boxes,
Yeah, sorry, I was doing half dozens. That's right. Yeah, that's a lot of eggs.
We sell direct.
Is it 3,500?
I'm confused.
We sell
all the eggs direct to the consumer because we are small producers and we're not from farming. It's the only way we could.
It's the only way we could kind of start.
Yeah.
It sounds now like we've grown quite a lot and we're massive and all the rest of it, but in the grand scheme of things, with some poultry.
Oh, it's tiny.
It's tiny in the greater scheme of things.
No, I get that, but like
that's
3,500 eggs you're selling a week. Maybe you're not selling them all, but you know, that's pretty good going given how long you've been in this. The infrastructure you're working on. I've just remembered I was working this out in my head the last time we did this, and I had about 700 eggs. It was so far off. Yeah, it's 540 is 3,500, 500 with 3,500, 7. Yeah, just try 3,800 eggs a week.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, you're like, oh, you know, a couple of hens. What?
When you say it like that, I'm kind of like, what's that a week? And I'm like, what's that a month? What's that a year? But it is a lot of work. Like we're up at 3 o'clock in the morning just delivering them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm not disputing that at all. Like it'll be a massive amount of work, but I'm more pointing to the fact that you are like, oh, you know, it's just 600 hens. You know, it's bloody good going when you think of it that way.
It's like you're saying, like how many is that a week in a month? It's about 14,000 a month, which is it's like a pallet and and 3 layers of what we used to have up the road.
It is a lot of eggs.
It's much more than. Is it not? It'll be 16,500 roughly.
Aye, give or take.
You're better at maths than me, clearly.
That sounds. I mean, we never really get into the crux of this. I think we're
give or take. 30 days is
yeah.
2 pounds.
When you really put it that way, that is fair play to you. Good God, well done.
No wonder I'm tired all the time.
I know. I do apologise that we're currently almost 11 o'clock.
It was me who suggested a late start, to be fair.
Yeah, it was me that helped with us being later. But on that, we really got to brilliant. Really like that. That's 16,000 eggs a month. I'm now going to go work out how minted you are. No, I'm joking.
I wish.
I know.
I was just
about to say that.
What? We don't need to go into your feed costs, but you know, how much has that changed since, for example, now I know you've got 600 more birds, but well, no, actually, let's go with how much has that changed since right at the start?
I'm happy to
I'm
see,
actually
happy
just
to see our
gonna.
feed cost because,
Sorry, I was just gonna work this out as a percentage increase.
oh, I'm going to cry. I've just seen it on the calculator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the wrong number. It's yeah. So our feed since we started this 2 years ago has went up about 55% per ton.
Oh my God, really?
Per ton, and we are going through.
No, you're the math guy.
I kind of it works out kind of 2 ton a month, 2 and a bit ton a month.
It's a notable increase.
Eh?
That's a notable increase. And just out of interest, have your egg prices went up?
Yes.
Yes,
got
they
to.
have, but
The problem was though we put them up at the beginning of this year, put them up in April, and I don't know if you're really too aware of. Obviously, we're aware of food prices like being from farming and things sort of loosely, but basically we put our prices up in April because we had to, because the price of fuel was going up at the time, wasn't
no,
it?
feed's been up for 2
Feed,
years.
yeah, feed and fuel was going
Well,
up.
post Ukraine, which I think was February,
Yeah, but the
gas
time-
prices, fuel, fertilizer, everything, which just caused everything to go up. It's
Yeah.
rough.
The time that it sounds silly, the time the price of the feed sort of really filtered down to us to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Was I'd say the end of April, beginning of May. So we have basically had 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of our price being up and us maintaining the same profit margin. Does that make sense? That's yeah.
I see.
And then the
Yeah,
food
yeah,
price
yeah.
jumped up, and it's like, well, it's hard to then turn around to customers again and go,
We need to put them up.
oh, by the way, we need to put this up again like a month later.
We're-
I think
Right.
they're
So
taking that sort of
I
minute.
think people think, I mean, I don't know if folk think this or not, but it's like
Some will, yeah.
they
For
see
sure.
that we sell a product and we can just go, oh, we want this for it. But the way
We don't. I'm not. We don't take a wage from our business. Like we don't take
Yeah.
a wage. That's why we
Yeah.
still work part time,
the,
because we keep investing the money back into it. So
I
and
would
not
say-
many people know that we don't take a wage. We can't.
No,
take a wage.
You said this last time, and
Oh,
I
God.
think it's they always say that, what is it? You never really start making money for the first 3 or 4 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But by what you guys are doing, now I don't see your accounts and whatnot, but what you guys are doing, I assume you are on the crux of that going in the right direction.
It is really mentally. It
It's
is really
difficult,
hard.
yeah.
the problem is it's mentally draining because
You don't have control over any of this stuff that's going up, and
We've-
we can say, sorry.
what was he saying is like, yeah, it's good. We can say we want this for our eggs and we can sell them at that, but it's
Doesn't mean people are going to buy them.
yeah, the way the economy and everything is, like the sort of bigger picture, people are feeling the pinch with their gas and electric and stuff just now, which is the big thing that's all over the news.
Yeah.
So if
But everyone's in that position.
everybody's in the same position, and folk will look at our eggs, and it is a premium product, and I totally understand that. Where house of hens in smaller numbers, we show a consumer exactly where their food's coming from.
All
these
our
different
hens
things.
go to rehoming centres. They don't go for slaughter as well. So it's just these little things that are like added things that people like what we do. But at the end of the day,
And
people can't afford that.
when
Do you
it
know what I mean?
comes-
Like it's quite
Yeah.
up for us this
when
winter.
it comes down to somebody's purse, basically,
Aye.
when they can go into Tesco and they can see a box of eggs that's maybe 50 pence
Uh-huh.
a box cheaper, that makes a big difference to folk.
And I think you've really hit an important point here. I think as farmers, we can be guilty of saying, well, why don't you just buy it? It's better. It's not always that easy. And I get you guys are seeing that. You're absolutely accepting that.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting, and I hope, praying for it, that through this winter is okay for you, because I understand that'll be tricky.
It is a big worry that's on our minds.
Yeah.
Because everyone's in the same boat and everyone's talking about it. It's just
It's our price of feed right now
price of
that's
feed
the
is just.
biggest.
It wasn't fair, but when it went up, it's been creeping up for the last 2 years. I think I told you at the beginning of this year, I was crying. I'm always crying, and I just said to him, I was like, don't even tell me what we're paying for feed, because I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with how much it kept going up. I was like, how are we meant to survive? Like, I don't get it. So it's not really a thing we talk about, which probably isn't really good. But
That's quite.
It's sort of
We had a conversation about it 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever that was.
Aye.
But you said your eggs had increased in price. and maybe I'm wrong here, but I assume they're not 155%. You know,
No.
that would be a mass. You know, so
Exactly.
not-
So
But like looking round about, I think you realise in the last wee while, compared to other things. No, I'm just going to say, like, we're sort of there or thereabouts. We're not like
Yeah.
we're than other
no,
products.
No.
I don't think that. Yeah, like
no.
we're not a million miles away. Although our costs are higher, we are being pretty competitive. I think our prices.
I would
For
say
what,
so.
for what we're doing, we maybe shouldn't be. We should be maybe selling ourselves a wee bit better. But
oh, definitely. I think it's maybe
that's a major downside of us, I think.
No, I would completely agree with the competitive side. Absolutely agree. As someone who bought a fair chunk off you at the Highland Show and didn't get to experience any of it, I thought it was a bloody expensive price to not get anything, but it was a good price for you and that benefited from what we're doing. If you're listening, fuck you. It was for reference to that. For you listening, guys, we'll get into Highland Show, and I won't mention anything about it yet. We'll get into Highland Show in a minute or two. Gordon Marie over there selling, and I always go around the food hall on the first 2 days, and then come back on the last day and actually buy stuff, because like it's just a nightmare carrying stuff around the Highland Show. So I came back to do my buying, and I don't know how much I spent, you guys, but probably 20 quid, 30 quid, whatever. And I think I spent 95 quid in total in the food hall, and I left my bag in the SRUC tent and just went home. So someone else, Ewan, texted me. He was like, "Thanks for the cheese, mate," and I was like, "Thanks for the." Oh no. So yeah, that was the story behind that one. But yeah, when you're on the deliveries, it's not just eggs. Yeah, there's more. What else are you selling?
Yeah, we've got our own eggs, we've got milk, honey, we've added some products that we sell through our mobile farm shop now, so like Ayrshire tatties, herbal teas, jams, piccalilli, all that kind of thing is added onto the deliveries at the moment.
And when you're talking about the oh my god, the trailer, what's the word you use? The
mobile farm shop.
Mobile farm shop, you said like 3 days ago. Tell us a bit about how that came about, because I love this story.
Gordon not listening to me. I'm not kidding.
No.
Oh, do you know what? We built the shed. We had our hens, or Gordon had his hens, and I wanted to kind of get.
We wanted to take more of our premium product about eggs.
We seen that people were enjoying our product and what we were doing, and we're really supporting local. And I was like, well, why don't we get?
We wanted to take more of that experience to people within town, and we sort of. I feel I kind of came to you with the idea, but you developed it.
See, you said this last time, and you both disputed it. It is exactly.
Yeah, like
As up for
I kind of thought people who can't get from the town to a farm shop, like there's a lot of older people or people who can't drive, or farm shops that aren't on public transport routes. I was like, why don't we take a farm shop to the town? Why don't we open a farm shop within the town?
My answer to that is we can't open a farm shop on a farm because we don't have a farm. So
yeah, obviously, but like we just thought
it was an idea we
open
both
one
had.
in
It was an idea
yeah,
we both had.
open a farm shop within the town,
Yeah.
so it was accessible for everybody basically.
Aye, yeah, that.
And
was
just quickly, what town was the choice?
We didn't know this was the issue.
Right.
He's saying that. I looked at some places in Prestwick and Ayr.
Arvin as well. You actually looked at Arvin.
Did I? Oh my god!
There was one looked at
Would it's do you know, just I know, you know, the story goes that didn't happen, but like do you think had the next thing being the trailer not appeared, you would have pursued this or not?
No.
Nah, it just doesn't. It strikes me as a fantastic idea that just will not work.
No.
It's I don't know why.
I went. Well, you were working full time also, but I went into a few places. They were fine, but I was like, I cannot look at these 4 walls for the rest of my life and just be stuck here. I was like, this is not for me. And that's when I came up with the idea. I says to Gordon when I went home that night, it was, well, why don't we take rural to town, like you're saying, but jazz it up a bit and just convert a horse trailer and let people go into that horse trailer. The idea that I had with that was because my sister was moving house, and instead of her renting a van or whatever, we've got an eye for rounds for the horse. And I was like, well, we'll just take the couch and that. So we took the couch, got into Kilmarnock, and we stopped for a coffee, and people were going, oh my God, is there a horse in that? Oh my God, there's a horse trailer. And coming up to the horse trailer. And I was like,
see inside it.
There's a couch inside that. So that's what kind of started the idea of, well, why don't we let people walk into the horse trailer that's converted and it's got all Scottish produce, and give them more of an experience of, like, I think we take it for granted walking in and out of trailers, or just like being round the farms now, because we're used to it now. But we're still friends with people not from farming, and you kind of take two sides to it, which I think is an advantage for us not coming from farming backgrounds.
And like, before we actually get into what you've done with the trailer, please tell everyone about the buying. I just think it's brilliant. Just the fact, yeah, we'll get it. Yeah.
The what? Sorry.
When you went and actually bought it.
Oh, so basically, I said to Gordon, I was like, look, why don't we convert a trailer? And he was like, absolutely not. That's not happening. That's not even going to work. And I thought, well, bugger that. I'll just start looking anyway. And I found a couple down in Yorkshire. This guy converts them, and he had some old trailers. So I was like, well, there's a couple in Yorkshire. Why don't we go and look? So Gordon was like, right, fine. We went down there, and the first trailer I seen, the guy opened the top door and it fell off. And I went, Gordon, that's the one. And he's like, no, you're shitting me. And I was like, no, that's it. I can vision it, Gordon. I was like, that's the one. I think once Gordon had been down to that guy's farm and seen like what the trailers could look like at different stages of converting them, he suddenly kind of went, do you know what? This could work, because the way people acted with Ifa Williams sitting in Kilmarnock High Street, he was like, this is actually a really good idea. So yeah, we hitched it up and we left, and I think we got to Gretna, and then we got a flat tyre, and I think Gordon then started to regret it again. What have I done? I was loving life. I was so excited.
It's great fun. Yeah, so yeah, but am I right in saying you got it and didn't really do much with the trailer for a good while, few months?
We got it, and we totally underestimated the amount of work it was requiring.
Aye, yeah.
Totally underestimated it. At that time, we were living in a small village, so we had nothing undercover to put the trailer to work on it. So it kind of, I think we paint stripped it and took off the tin and kind of like, what's the word? Like, took all the rust and things like that off the chassis.
I'm not even going to pretend I know the word. No.
I think we've done that first winter, but then it sat all...
Did you sand it? Did you sand it? No.
Couldn't sandblast it because it was too delicate. The tin's too delicate, so I had to literally hand strip. I had to hand strip it.
And was that your moment to be like, what have we done?
What, Matt? I was actually buzzing. You hated it, but I was so excited.
I didn't. See, I like ripping it to bits. I like taking the rotten tin off the side, rip the floor out, all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed.
It's quite good crack doing that, yeah.
It's a good laugh destroying stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah, absolutely.
But the paint stripping it was essentially taking it to bits, but I was like, you're just scratching the surface off it. I know that sounds really stupid, but I'd rather set about something with a big hammer and a grinder and just batter it, because it's better.
Totally get it.
It's better fun than just...
No, I do have to say,
I get the paint stripping was obviously, it's a really important job in what we were doing, restoring the trailer, but I felt it was quite tedious and on a long time.
I think it is. I think that's a big part of it and why not everyone does this.
Aye,
definitely.
It got to a point, I think Gordon could have sold it, and I was like, no, it's staying there.
Yeah,
because it stalled in the winter, and then the farm across the road, he said we could put the trailer in there to finish it off. So it was painted May 2021.
Right. Yeah.
But then it was kind of like, it was the last kind of push. Do we leave our jobs to open the mobile farm shop? What if it doesn't work? How do we pay the mortgage? How do we pay the bills? All that kind of was in the back of our heads. So I actually suggested to Gordon, well,
I think
we're
it's
what
actually
we're worrying about how we were going to pay for a mortgage and bills and whatever if we were going to try and push on working for ourselves. And I said, well, why are we panicking about trying to pay for a house we don't want to be in 5 years' time? Like, this is not the end goal. We don't want to be here in 5 years. So why are we struggling? Why are we going to struggle to pay for a house we don't want to be in?
Yes, yeah.
But I'm very much like impulse. I'm just like, it's very black and white.
You, that's your, like, that, I think that's sometimes how we work quite weird here. Like, you come up with an, I don't want to say an impulse idea, that sounds bad.
I do.
You
I'm
could-
very black and white.
You
And then
come up
you're
with
very
things
much
and
like-
I sit and think,
Yeah.
and then don't forget about it, but then I don't think about it, and then like a month
I just have
later
to
or
leave
2
it
months
to
later,
do
I'll
it.
come back and I'll go, mind that thing you said, that's a really good
Yeah,
idea,
so
that's
I-
what we're going to do.
I suggested that in the January because the trailer was still sitting there not painted. When it was painted in May, I kind of said to Gordon again, I was like, well, what are we doing? Like, it's painted now, like, we need to keep going.
Yes.
But I didn't test you about it. I let you think about it, and I think it was in July. You walked in one day and you went, let's sell the house. And then I went, what? Then I panicked.
You can have
Because I was
went,
like,
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, because you're like, you're sensible, whereas I'm like, nah, we're doing this, we'll do that. And you're just like, you bring me back then, you're like, no, come on, think about it. But we sold the house and we moved in with my mum and dad. Like I said, I'm from a big family, so I'm one of 9. So, I know,
I was going to say, did you forget?
I was going to say I'm one of 8, but I was like, no. I've got 8
there's
siblings.
you plus 8.
So my mum and dad still got the big house that we moved to when I was 3, so there's 6 bedrooms in it. So we've essentially got like a little flat within the house. So it just takes the risk away. And we opened the mobile farm shop May 2022. So it took a long time for us
A year, basically.
to house and
The
settle.
thing is though, like the time going from the trailer being painted in May to us selling the house to actually go, right, we need to push on with this, was like 5 months. But then after that there was still things that needed done to it because we just essentially run out of time to do the finishing things to it.
Yeah.
Aye, so those 5 months there wasn't a massive amount happened really.
No,
Yeah, for sure.
we got there in the end.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to quickly do something. I'm going to jump away from the trailer for 2 seconds and come back to it. Because what have we not spoke about?
We forgot about the bees, haven't we? Oh my god.
we filmed, I can't remember if we said this at the start of the episode, but for those of you listening, guys, we filmed this, as I said, it took us 17 days to film. And we got to the end and we've been so excited to talk about, well, not just one thing, but one thing I'd been so excited to talk about. We sort of just finished, we got the cheese board on the table, we're ready to enjoy the rest of the night. And I sat it down and I saw chutney and I was like, just in my head, what else goes in jars? Honey. We never spoke about the bees. So you guys, well, tell me about the bees.
I wouldn't get too excited because we're still very much beginner beekeepers and we phone our mentor like panicking all the time, but we
crying
had our, what's that?
Do you phone the mentor crying or just
No,
not
she doesn't cry about the bees.
Right, good.
No, she's managed to not cry about them.
I don't cry that much, but
I mean, yeah, you've cried about the hens, you've cried about the trailer, you've cried about boring.
You've talked about crying 3 times.
I'm quite emotional, right? Okay. When we had those 100 hens, we were selling door to door and also one farmers market a month, and we were buying local honey. And the guy we were buying honey from, we just kind of asked him, could you kind of show us in the beehive? I was like, I've never seen inside a beehive. And he showed us and found it pretty fascinating.
He was just telling us that little kind of snippet facts as well.
And it was really good. And he suggested that if we wanted to get into it, to do the course at Air Beekeeper Association.
Oh yeah.
So we've done that. And we've got 3 beehives, and we're actually going to be taking our honey off. Our supers are coming off the hives. Hopefully, it should be this week, but it'll be next week. We'll get it done. So, it's been a massive learning curve, and we're still learning.
So basically, you do your course and you get your bees through the association. You get bees from within your area, basically for biosecurity. So you're bringing diseases into your area, which kind of makes sense. So you do the course, you get given them allocated a mentor basically, and they'll come and help you through your first kind of season. Obviously beyond that if you need it, because they're all pretty good. Aren't
They're actually really good. They're so knowledgeable.
Is the guy that runs that called Chris?
Chris Yuri.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know him?
No, I don't. But I filmed with him once.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
With Rhett.
Yes, at Douglas House. No, at Dumfries House. Douglas House.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, okay. We've not actually met him.
We've not met him actually.
No.
It's
Julian Stanley.
Julian Stanley. We always phone in panic. Panic.
Roger.
And Roger as well, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye, so you get a piece through the association and they just kind of help you get started and get you up and going. And it's quite, it's really interesting. I don't know. It sounds silly.
I feel like I'm going to let this thing because you're pure buzzing.
Buzzing.
I spent too much time talking to you, Wallace.
No, the bees are great. They're so...
Every time we open the hive, though, we are learning something new.
We're so
Like,
fascinated by
definitely.
everything that they do. There's like...
I learned, last time we opened the hive, I learned use your smoker because I get stung 7 times and I think I get stung, my
Just
hands were
before
still
Aaron.
swollen. Was it
sure.
Aaron's show?
You certainly never mentioned it.
Oh, it
But
must
maybe
have been just
It
after
was
that.
round about
Yeah.
that kind of
My
time,
hands have still got lumps on them from where they stung me and it was like 3 weeks ago.
Oh no, you mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh,
Aye, you did. That's right. No,
I
you
still
did.
got lumps on my fingers, so always use your smoker and put on proper
We
gloves. I had
actually,
silly gloves on, it was so stupid.
we actually this sounds like we don't really know anything about bees. We know
Yeah,
something.
you've just started out though. That's
Aye.
how.
No,
Well,
we've
that's
just
it. We'll be
had
taking our first lot of honey next
The-
week. So
I'm
I'm
going to
going
give
to
you...
do a TikTok.
Oh, do
Hold me
no
to
here.
that.
Here, that might go very well. Get the right hashtags in
I
there.
know, because I'll probably forget to video half the stuff and I'm like,
No,
well, that's rubbish.
I honestly think I'm at the stage now, and it's tragic. Like I feel like I'm filming even when I forget I'm filming. Like I'm just doing it just because in case you might get something.
Okay.
You'll get to that stage eventually. But I'm glad we've touched upon the bees, at least here, because I did want to talk about it last time, and I know you haven't done it for long, but I just wanted to get into it at least a little bit. But I said we'd leave the trailer for a minute. Trailer's coming back to trailer now, touring round. It's been going for what's that? 3 months now.
So much, yeah.
Going to different shows, and if you're listening, this will mean nothing to you. If you're watching, it will mean a bit to you. In the background, which has been very annoying for the last 90 minutes for me, because there is a little what do you call it? What would you call that? Don't move it a wee second, Maria. Don't move it a wee second. What is it called? It's not over. What's that called? Ticket card prize thing. The thing that looks like the French flag anyway is like that close. Is like that close to being perfectly in line with the white and the window, but it's just off, and it's been painful for me the whole time. But I didn't want to say it because I forgot. I just noticed after we hit record. You won't be able to see it at the minute, guys. So if you just show us, could you just bring that to screen and make a noise so everyone can see it?
Make a noise.
Yeah, but
But
talk again.
When you're talking, so that's fine. Like basically talking in the camera.
Oh, right.
So I think this is a first for the R2Kast. I think, now I said this the last time, Ross Pattinson, number 29, I can't remember if you have been at Highland Show champion for something, but if you have, it's not a first. If you haven't, it is a first. First overhead champion at the Highland Show. Could you tell us exactly what it is, Maria? Because no, 2 seconds. Gordon, could you tell us what the prize is?
It's the champion exhibit in Scotland's Larder. No? Oh,
Best exhibit within Scotland's Larder.
I was pretty close.
Champion's better than best.
Well, no, that's it. Best exhibit within Scotland's Larder.
It's like, oh, you've got the best sheep. Like, no, you have the championship.
So this the trailer was only, well, it was more than a month old, but it was only a month old, looking nice and actually being used. So how did that come about? How did you find yourself at the Highland Show, and how did the prize come about?
So we'd opened the mobile farm shop early May, and a lot of people kept saying to us, "Are you taking us to the Highland Show? Are you going to the Highland Show with us?" And I was like, "No, like you have to have your applications in by January. Like I don't think there's a space for that if I don't see it at the Highlands." Anyway, people kept saying, and me doing that thing of impulse again, I just said, "Oh bugger it, I'll send an email and see if they've got space," because people keep asking us if we're going. And
This was, bear in mind, this was like 2 weeks before, 2-3 weeks before, wasn't it? No.
aye.
It was in June, I think.
It was in June. It was like
It was like the beginning of June, right?
I was like, aye. So I emailed them, was not expecting a response. I thought, whatever. Sounds so bad. But no, we got a response and they said they had a space in the food hall and they loved our idea and they would love to have us at the Highland Show. And I was like,
you basically turned around to me and you're like, I don't know, you were kind of like hesitant, but I was like, well, we can't say no. It sounds stupid. It's like, if you get the chance of that and being just brand new, basically.
oh yeah.
You can't turn around and say no, but
no, there was never going to be a no. But it's just that moment of, oh God, right, okay, this is going to happen. So it was like 10 days before the Highland Show that they said, like, yeah, like, can you come? So it was all just a bit mental.
You basically emailed back and said, yes, that's great, we'd love to come. And then we went, how the hell are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Which sounds stupid, but it's not a chance that you just pass up. Like,
Well, no, you couldn't. No.
You have to.
And it's more than just an opportunity for you guys, because you are stockists of a lot of different places in Ayrshire as well. It's an opportunity.
Well, that's it. When we actually, I was going to say, I actually only tried the night before because I was that scared. I didn't.
Again.
I didn't.
Yeah, actually said, you're saying to me like a few days before, you're like, what are we actually doing? Like, we don't belong at the show.
I said, we don't belong at the Highland Show, what are we doing?
Because we're like,
we're just not.
There's people that know what they're doing at the Highland Show, and we're just like,
we just wing it.
Going.
We just wing it. But that was what we actually wanted to do as well. Though at the Highland Show, obviously we had a trailer and it's open that people can go into it, but we also had like our kind of crates and our tables set out, and we had all small producers from Scotland. So we had like our jam, which is handmade by one person. Our honeys, obviously we don't have our own honey just now, so we have another local supplier. So he hands labels all his jars. The herbal tea we have is hand picked on an island. Like all these small producers, I was like, well, if my business was given an opportunity, I would love if they put us at front as well.
It's the same thing again. Like, we're seeing it from both sides. We're seeing it from, we've taken a sort of leap of faith in ourselves. Yeah. And we think that if
these are quality products made hand labelled by other Scottish producers, and I thought they're in the same boat as us, because all our eggs are hand packed and the boxes are hand labelled. It was all done by hand. There's nothing.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that if somebody done it for
so
us.
They were all excited with our produce. So yeah, it was a bit mental. I think it was Thursday morning. I was speaking to a woman. She came up to me with a clipboard and she was talking away. And I just thought it was environmental health, doing their checks, obviously making sure we're doing everything properly. And she started asking me more about us. And I was like, what the heck's going on? I was like, who is this? I was so confused. I just had to say to her, I was like, really sorry, like, what is it you're doing? Because she was talking to me but noting it all down, and I was like, it
was like in the nicest way possible. Yeah. Like, who are you? Like,
you're going like that to Gordon. Why you?
Why you?
I was so confused, and I was like, oh, like, who are you? And she's like, I'm a judge. And I was like, a judge for what?
But she kind of faltered and went, well, I'm a judge for the judge, and I was like, what are you doing?
We were totally confused. Totally confused. I was like, you can tell it's her first time here. But yeah, they came back later on that afternoon with, who was it? See, I don't even know what it was.
Do you mean like after we'd actually won it?
So basically they came up to us and said that we'd won it, and there was all these people.
Yeah, so there was the two judges came back round. There was a woman that came the first time, and there was another woman after that was like the official judge. So the two of them came back round again with a quick look round the voucher, asked a few questions and that. Anyway, once we'd won it, the two of them came back at the Edinburgh Provost. Is that right, Provost?
All right. Well, I don't know who it is, but that is a thing, yes.
Yes, so she was there.
There's quite a few people there.
There was was it the head organiser of the show? Or one of the sort of organisers of the show? Yeah. This sounds so bad. Like,
no, we genuinely had no idea what was going on. We literally got told 10 days before, you've got a space. And then it was just
and we didn't actually know it was an award, we didn't know it was anything. It was just
I think literally people could see we were like just deer caught in headlights. We were like, what is going on?
And there was like a photographer turned up, and it was just quite.
It was mad, but it was really fun.
It was the best kind of mad and like best kind of confused to be, and that's.
And he said he was a world champion, and obviously once the kind of excitement wore off, we were like, oh my god, we both went, what have we won overall champion for? Like, we don't even know. Because it was never properly, nobody properly told us. They just went, you've won overall champion. And I was like, brilliant. Like,
did they think we had a bull with us? Like, what's this for?
I was so confused. Like, did we put chickens with us? Like, it wasn't until the next day we actually seen a sheet of paper to say that is what the overall champion was for, best exhibit in Scotland's larder. And I texted my mum and dad and I was like, oh, this is what we won overall champion for yesterday. Oh, it's funny, isn't it?
And, you know, from someone looking in, I'm sure a lot of you guys listening were at the Highland Show. There's always a lot of good stuff in the food hall. It looks brilliant. And I think I mentioned this to you last time. Orkney looked really good. Taste of Orkney had like almost a side. A lot of places. Was it Shetland? Was it? Maybe it was Shetland.
Well, Orkney was down on the left-hand side, and then Shetland was down like next to it.
That's right. Yes.
It was all that kind of top corner. It was.
Which I think is a brilliant idea. Like, imagine you like Taste of Arran, like all the islands.
Yeah.
I like a night.
Okay, aye.
I say Taste the Island, but you know what I mean. Like,
no, you're right. And the whole place looked brilliant as it always does. But you guys stood out big time. I do mean that. It was. Had I known this were a thing, like yourselves, it'd be something that makes sense. You absolutely deserve to win it. So,
thank you.
Well done on that. It was gorgeous. And if you haven't seen the trailer, make sure to check out the Wee Brown Hens on Facebook and Instagram. Maria's repping it at the minute. I think you are too, Gordon, but it's a wee bit harder to see with the colour.
Sort of.
Yeah, just with the camera. But I wanted to end on that note, the sort of overhead championship, sort of try and work towards that crescendo. But you guys are massive fans. I don't need to ask you the last two questions. Well, what are the last two questions?
I don't know. I've never listened to this podcast for my life.
Oh, have you not?
No.
Something about what you had for your tea and what you're up to next day.
Here it is. If you were a kitchen utensil, what would you be?
A ladle.
Why did I think ladle as well?
I thought a spatula. Is that a fish slice?
Yes, same thing.
Aye, I'd be that because I'd be a bit dim.
Because you're a bit of a fish.
Aye.
But the spatula isn't a fish.
Like, no, a fish slice though. I know a spatula and a fish slice is different.
No, we had this discussion before, and someone said a spatula so I could batter folk over the heat, and I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that. The person has to pick you up. You're just there. You're just getting battered on someone's heat. So yeah, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's a great question for you two actually. If you had any tips for folk coming into industry, what would they be?
What if both answer both questions? I think we should. Right. What one's first, sorry?
Whatever one you want.
See, look at him, act like he doesn't know. In 5 years' time, obviously, I would love to have my own land, so our own small holding or something of ours. As I say, we're living with my mum and dad at the moment, which is absolutely fine. But our own little small holding, definitely in 5 years' time.
Yes.
I think, yeah, that. But to add to it as well, I think to increase our numbers in hens. I know I'm not that keen on that idea, but if we increase our numbers in hens and have a more, as much as a purpose-built shed, like a proper purpose-built shed, like a.
Oh yeah, we built the shed ourselves, so there's mistakes and flaws in that, but we done it ourselves. So
yeah, we'd like to get to a number that was more than what we have just now, but still doing the same thing. So still doing like a deliveries and maybe get some sort of wholesale things as well.
Yeah.
Get out our trailer more, push that a bit. Just it sounds a bit more of the same, but
bigger.
Yeah, and have more things ourselves, like our own ground and our own sort of small holding, and produce more to sell in our shop ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's that fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Good answer.
No, I know it's like but we've both got the same vision of where we want to be. Really like.
Tips for coming into the industry. I would say yes to every opportunity.
Yeah,
even
good one.
You know what? If you say yes to an opportunity that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's going to grow you more than staying in your comfort zone. Like honestly, see if somebody told me the night before the Highland Show you don't have to do it, I'd be like, that's fine, I won't do it. But
you would never gain anything.
Do you know, you're never going to gain anything from staying in your comfort zone. So always say yes to every opportunity, and especially to the ones that make you feel uncomfortable. I think definitely getting into the industry.
That's quite a similar one to what number 52, Amy Wilkinson, said. I think hers is the best one. What was it she said? 20 seconds of blind confidence. And basically,
that makes sense.
Yeah, she was
Just
like,
don't think, just do it.
Say yes, and then 20 seconds later, you're going to be like, what have I done? But
that was kind of like me. That was kind of you and show you. Like, I have to say yes, so we said yes.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, how are you going to do it? And it, kind of. I'm just going to say I'm saying the same as you, but yeah, the same as that. But also, obviously, this is about farming and things. But I think you should learn as much as you can. So in different areas of farming, like I know I've only really had poultry and dairy, but I would potentially, when I was younger, I'd have loved to have went and worked the sheep and worked the beef cattle and like, go and get tight. Like, but it doesn't matter. Like, see if you're not interested in it, go and learn something about it. Like when Maria was at college, she learned about soil, but she was like, you said to me, you came home that day and went, I can't believe I'm learning about duck today. It's so pointless.
Then I realised
you realised how good it was.
And even
if you even had like 2 or 3 lectures of that, you would have learned something.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I've heard from your podcast, there's silly snippets I've picked up, and I've learned something about that now. And I think
I learned a lot from this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think there's so much. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Just learn something about something.
And you said something quite interesting about not even just getting into farming, but getting into business. Remember you were talking about the wheelbarrow situation.
Aye, so like
not only like getting into farming, but starting your own business in farming. Like Gordon had that.
Yeah, so just like starting your own business, probably farming, because it's quite a big thing and it's quite hard. So when we had when you had 30 hens at the time,
Something like that.
we had it was small numbers, less than 100. We went and bought a wheelbarrow, and Maria turned around to me and she was like, I can't believe you just spent £50 on a wheelbarrow. And I was like,
I nearly cried, Wallace.
for a change.
the wheelbarrow.
And she's like, it's 50. I was like, aye, but we need it for like working out and stuff. And like,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait,
it's like a tool. It's like a tool you need. Like,
you
need a wheelbarrow, don't you? So, and it's kind of like looking back now.
We used to say, imagine we had a van that was with their own logo on it.
Well, people with vans, they've made it. And doesn't.
That's what we were saying.
And then like last year we bought a van, and I'm like,
got it all logoed and stuff.
And I'm like, if we can sell enough eggs to buy a wheelbarrow, and then we can sell enough eggs and other produce and things to buy a van, and in our head, our vision is to buy a small holding. I'm like, that is achievable. Like,
just a wee bit.
Basically,
so cool. I love that.
Like it sounds like right now it's like that is mental, but considering where we came from, buying a wheelbarrow was a big thing.
Yeah.
To look forward and go, we will never buy a van, and we've done that. So now looking forward, we'll never. No, I'm not saying we'll never buy a small one, because I know we'll do it.
The goal.
Like,
but we've not had any grants or subsidies. We've had that small help from you
right,
but other than that, it's our own savings and business money we put into it. So
essentially, I think what I'm trying to say is learn as much as you can, and take small steps. Don't do what I did and be at the very beginning and go, I want 100,000 chickens and I'm going to do this.
You're never going to start at the top. So just start.
It's the same, and like there's so many examples like that. Like this podcast. You know, I just started filming it in Zoom, and then now I've done 70. You know, like that's how it works. Like it's 6. It's just how anything. Yeah, brilliant. And it's brilliant to listen to you guys' story. Pretty much the same again for me, but for everyone else. And I'm not joking about that. Like it's actually really nice and refreshing to hear it, and just what's been built out of 4 years intense work. Of course, it's intense work, but and where we will be in 5 years is quite exciting. Actually, just to see what can be put into.
What you're saying there, Wallace, like what we've done in 4 years, and you're saying what we're going to do in the next 5 years, that's more than doubling.
Exactly.
Well, that's scary because I would say.
No, forget about all that. No, if you think 4 years ago you were panicking about buying a wheelbarrow, in 5 years' time you'll be panicking about buying a second small home.
A second?
So it's like
brilliant.
No, I know that is ridiculous, but you know what I mean. No, like
No,
But-
it is
but-
achievable.
Is it ridiculous? Did you
Yeah.
think you would be anywhere near where you are now?
I don't mean to. You say this quite often. that-
Well, in fairness, you thought you were going to have 16,000 hens on day one, so maybe that's the wrong question.
I'm a mile behind where I wanted to be. But no, like you say quite often, like you never want to say COVID was a positive, but and
I disagree.
obviously it was a horrendous thing for a lot of people.
was.
It was.
for
It
for
still,
farming,
it
it
still
was.
is. For farming always benefits in a crisis. As soon as
Yeah.
something bad happens, farming thrives, and I think that I've lost my train of thought then. So like I think COVID sort of basically boosted us into the I'm gonna say into the limelight. It sounds like everybody knows about us, but
No,
it sort of
it
got
just
them-
boosted. It just
boosted
boosted
us
us.
to get our name out there.
Yeah.
And it's maintaining that and taking it forward and pushing it. And simple things like even this podcast with that interview with the paper a few weeks ago,
Scotsman, yeah.
the Scotsman, the Highland Show, all these things that help to just keep our momentum going. And
Absolutely.
But then again, we could have said no to all those things because we'd be too nervous, which we were really nervous. But you
It's your-
have to do it if you want to grow. You have to do
it's
those
your 20
things.
seconds.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah,
20 seconds of faith or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's here. It's brilliant, and I love the tips. I love the ambition to be in the same place, but I love when folks say that. I say this a lot when folks say basically the same thing, but
yeah.
you know, maybe more. It's been really good to sort of sit down and go through it again. And funnily enough, when we first recorded, it was the longest time I had ever done a podcast.
Yeah.
It is now not the longest time I have ever done a podcast.
Oh.
We've overtaken it again.
We've
so-
done it again.
Aye.
I'm looking at the clock at the bottom of the screen.
I
right
thought
now.
you didn't. I was like, thank God, because I don't want to be
I've
that.
got 111 minutes, I think, at the minute. But it flies by, doesn't it? It's over 2 hours again. But no, it's been really good. I've very much enjoyed it again. Hope everyone else has as well.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
sure they will. But I have one final question for you. Will you watch it or listen to it?
I will listen to it on Spotify, but I will not watch it. No way. No
See-
way.
see-
Because I will look at the YouTube comments or something like that slating me, going, "Oh my God."
There won't be many. I don't get many YouTube comments.
Many.
That's
alright.
good. That's good. Balls with soon delete.
No, nothing to do
Well,
with you
you know I
guys.
cry a lot, so I'll just listen to it on Spotify.
I'm going to create another account and come on and be nasty. No, well, of course I would do that.
To be fair, I've not actually ever watched any of them.
For sure, yeah.
Always
Um,
watched them.
Yeah, which that's the case for a lot of folk, in fairness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. I hope you've enjoyed being on yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Not at all. Times two. It's as I said, it's been good. Last week we were over in America with we weren't over in America. We're speaking to Andrea in America from Minnesota. Today we've been in Ayrshire with Maria and Gordon talking about Weaver and Hens. So go and check them out, Instagram and Facebook, as I said, and TikTok. Actually, very funny over there on TikTok as well. Next week, number 60. So yeah, another milestone. At number 60, it feels only like yesterday we did number 50 with you and Emma. But number 60, we're heading down to Oxfordshire with Carl Franklin, which is the hardest word for a Scottish person to say on the planet. The pretend farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Instant chat because Carl left school to get into chefing, and now here he is. I think he's 28 or 27, something like that. With not a small flock of sheep anymore. He's got 93 breeding ewes he's worked up to. So it's been quite a quick thing he's done in 4 years. And what we got into speaking about a lot then was the fact that everything is yellow down in England at the minute. So now this was filmed about a month ago, so we get into that. But yeah, we'll see you next week for that. Hope you guys enjoyed. And
Yeah.
yes,
Right, thank you.
grand. Well, thank you very much, everyone. See you for episode number 60.
Well, that's it. Another R2Kast finished, another agricultural mind opened up. And I would just like to say that getting these guests on board, it does take time, and it always has done, but I've now went weekly, and with that comes even more time required. And I would just like to finally thank once more the Scottish Farmer for sponsoring the show and making that much more possible. Please be sure to get in touch if you've any ideas of people you'd like to see on the podcast, or maybe ideas you have for me presenting better, because I definitely do require that. See you in the next one.